In a little town, tucked between hills and cornfields, stood an old pumpkin patch called Willow's Hollow. And in every center of that patch stood a scarecrow named Simon. He was tall and thin, with a crooked hat, button eyes, and a coat that once belonged to a kind old farmer named Jack. By day, Simon kept the crows away. By night, he stood still under the moon while the pumpkins glowed softly all around him. At least, that's what everyone thought he did. Because on Halloween night, something strange always happened. When the clock struck 12 and the last trick-or-treaters went home, the air would shimmer over Willow's Hollow, and for just 1 hour, the pumpkins would whisper, and Simon would wake. He stretched his straw arms, blinked his button eyes, and looked out across the quiet field. Simon whispered, "Another Halloween. And still, no one knows my secret." Just then, a rustle came from behind a pumpkin. Out popped a tiny black cat with glowing yellow eyes. "Secret?" she said, tilting her head. "What kind of secret does a scarecrow keep?" Simon gasped. "You can talk!" The cat grinned. "You can move!" They stared at each other, then both laughed quietly. "My name's Clover," the cat purred. "And I wasn't supposed to be here. The wind blew me off the porch, and now I'm lost." Simon smiled kindly. "You can stay with me until morning, but I suppose you'll want to know what makes this night so strange?" Clover nodded eagerly. Tell me. Simon looked out toward the moon and began to speak. "Every Halloween, when the pumpkins glow bright, I awake for 1 hour deep in the night. The magic returns from the seeds below to thank the scarecrow who helped them grow." Clover's ears perked up. "You mean they come alive?" Simon nodded. "Listen." The pumpkins shimmered with tiny flickers of orange light, and one of them whispered, "Happy Halloween, Simon." Clover's fur puffed up. Did that pumpkin just talk?" Simon chuckled. "They do that every year." He knelt beside one, gently touching its stem. "They remember the farmer who planted them, and they remember the promise I made him." Clover tilted her head. "What promise?" Simon sighed softly. "When the farmer grew old, he built me to watch over his patch. He said, 'Keep them safe from the crows and the cold, and never let their magic grow old.' And every Halloween night since he passed, I keep my word." Clover's eyes softened. "That's not spooky. That's sweet." Simon smiled. "Oh, it's a little spooky too." He pointed toward the dark part of the field, where the scarecrows from other farms stood still and silent. "Not every scarecrow wakes kindly," he whispered. "Some wander when the moon is full, looking for the magic they've lost." Clover shivered. "What happens if they find it?" Simon's voice dropped to a hush. "They try to take it from the pumpkins that still have it." Suddenly, a shape moved between the rows of corn. 2 glowing buttons stared back from the dark. Another scarecrow. It dragged its straw feet slowly across the dirt. "Simon," it rasped. "You've kept the magic too long." Clover hid behind a pumpkin. Simon stood tall, his hat trembling slightly in the wind. "This patch is under my care," Simon said. "You'll not take what isn't yours." The other scarecrow grinned, straw falling from its grin. "Then I'll take you instead." The wind howled through the field. Pumpkins glowed brighter, their vines curling like green lightning. Clover leapt onto a pumpkin and shouted, "Simon, the light! Use the light!" Simon raised his arm, and the pumpkin's glow flared, casting warm golden beams across the field. The other scarecrow froze, its straw catching the light like sparks, until with one last hiss, it fell apart. Just a pile of hay once more. Clover's heart raced. Simon knelt beside her, smiling. "See? A little spooky, but safe." She laughed nervously. "Remind me not to wander off again." Simon looked around at the glowing pumpkins. "The magic's fading. My hour is almost done." Clover blinked. Will I see you again next Halloween? Simon smiled kindly. If you promise to visit, then yes. He placed a small pumpkin seed beside her paw. Plant this by the barn. When it grows, you'll always have a piece of our patch nearby. Wind swirled once more, and Simon began to stiffen back into his still pose. Good night, Clover, he whispered, and happy Halloween. Clover curled beside his boots as the sky began to lighten, and when the sun rose, the townsfolk passing by could have sworn the Scarecrow's smile looked a little bigger than before, and one tiny black cat sat proudly in his shadow.